So, I mean, you really have to try and put yourself in this specific filmmaker's shoes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine the physical reality of it. It is 1923.
Right.
And the film industry is, well, still essentially in its infancy. There is absolutely no CGI.
Not at all.
No digital workarounds, no green screens you can fall back on.
Yeah, and no air-conditioned trailers for the cast to hide in between takes either.
Exactly. You just don't have modern technology of any kind.
Oh.
What you do have are these massive, incredibly heavy hand-cranked cameras.
Literally made of wood and brass.
Wood and brass. And you are working with nitrate film stock.
Which is terrifying.
It is so volatile and flammable that, like, a stray spark could literally burn the entire production to the ground.
Just poof, gone.
Right. So you have all of these severe physical limitations, but you also have this completely unhinged, almost terrifying level of ambition.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you make a conscious decision as a director to shoot an epic, sprawling film.
A very dark film.
Yeah, about the absolute darkest, grittiest depths of human degradation.
And exactly a light comedy.
Not at all. But you don't do it on a controlled studio lot in Hollywood where it's safe.
Right, where you can fake the elements?
No, you drag your entire cast and crew out to actual natural locations.
It's wild.
And that includes hauling these massive wooden cameras, the highly flammable film, and actors wearing heavy period clothing.
Oh, God, the wool suits.
Right. You haul them all into the literal deadly heat of Death Valley.
It's just unbelievable.
In the 1920s.
It really is the definition of sheer, unfiltered madness.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, depending entirely on which film historian you ask, it is an act of absolute, uncompromising genius.
Right. That's the debate.
Because you have to consider the biological reality of what you're describing here.
Exactly.
You're talking about an environment where the ambient temperature regularly hits 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Just scorching.
And it's reflecting off those white salt flats. People are wearing, like you said, heavy wool suits and thick dresses.
Yeah.
The wooden camera bodies are literally warping from the heat.
I can't even imagine.
The emulsion on the film stock is at risk of just melting away.
Wow.
And you are subjecting your team to this, not for a documentary, but for a narrative fiction film.
Right, a made-up story.
Just to capture the authentic, visceral feeling of human suffering on celluloid.
Yeah, it wasn't about making it look real.
No, it was about making it actually be real.
Exactly. The suffering wasn't acted.
Not at all.
It was documented. And that wild, uncompromising world is exactly where we are dropping in today.
I'm so ready for this.
We are exploring one of the most legendary, controversial, and frankly butchered films in the entire history of cinema.
Oh, absolutely butchered.
We are, of course, talking about the 1924 silent film, Greed.
Directed by the infamous Erich von Stroheim.
The one and only.
Cinema, the magic vehicle, a comprehensive guide. Journey 1, 1913 to 1950.
Because Greed is a film that essentially broke the very system it was born into.
Oh, he really did.
The production of the film is almost as dramatic and in some ways as tragic as the fictional story playing out on the screen.
Honestly, maybe more so.
Maybe. Because looking at this film forces us to ask some really uncomfortable fundamental questions.
Like what?
Questions about the nature of art, the realities of commerce, and the practical limits of a single director's vision.
Oh, that underlying tension is everything.
Yeah.
Art versus commerce, vision versus reality.
The eternal struggle.
It's the current that runs through this entire deep dive.
Absolutely.
Because the central debate around Erich von Stroheim and Greed is completely polarizing, even a century later.
People are still arguing about it.
Right. On one hand, you have people who view Stroheim as a profoundly misunderstood pioneer.
Sure.
Was he this visionary who was single-handedly trying to build a completely new visual language?
Or a medium that was still figuring out how to tell long-form stories.
Exactly. Or, if we look at it from the other side.
The studio side.
Right. Was he just an arrogant megalomaniac?
A lot of people thought so.
Was his insistence on shooting hundreds of hours of film just a massive, unchecked ego trip?
And putting his crew in actual danger.
Yeah, an ego trip that ultimately doomed his own masterpiece before the ticket-buying public even got a chance to see it.
That really is the crux of the issue.
Yeah.
You have a man who demanded absolute perfection and absolute reality.
No matter the cost.
Seemingly regardless of the financial cost to his studio, the
Yeah.
physical cost to his crew, or even the professional cost to his own career.
He just didn't care.
No. When you look at his methods, when you read about the sheer volume of film he was printing every day,
It's insane.
it's incredibly easy to see why the studio executives were absolutely terrified of him.
Oh, I'd be terrified too.
He was a literal financial black hole.
Yeah.
But then when you look at the surviving footage,
The actual movie.
right, the framing, the performances,
Yeah.
the psychological depth,
It's stunning.
it becomes equally easy to see why film historians and subsequent generations of directors revere him.
Because he was a genius.
He was doing things with a camera that no one else had even conceived of yet.
Right. And here's where my mind immediately goes when I read about this film.
Where's that?
I think about greed almost like a mythical lost city.
Oh, like a cinematic Atlantis.
Exactly. Or El Dorado.
Yeah.
Everyone in film history circles, every director you admire today has heard of its greatness.
Legendary.
People whisper about the legendary lost 9-hour cut that Stroheim originally put together.
9 hours.
9 whole hours. But almost no one currently alive has ever seen it in its true, original, unedited form.
Because it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Which leads me to this core question I've been turning over, and I really want to pose it to you.
Okay, hit me.
If a piece of art is intended to be this massive, sweeping epic,
Right.
but it is taken away from the artist and cut to ribbons by corporate executives before the public ever sees it,
Yeah.
does the fragment that remains still count as a masterpiece?
Oh.
Like, can a ruin be a masterpiece?
That is a phenomenal question.
Thanks.
I think the answer requires us to mentally separate the artist's original intent from the physical artifact that history actually left us with.
Okay, separate the intent from the artifact.
Yes, the artifact we have, the theatrical cut, is undeniably mutilated.
Slashed to pieces.
It is missing massive chunks of its narrative connective tissue.
Right.
But the intent, the sheer density of the psychological realism that remains, even in those fragmented scenes, it's so overwhelmingly powerful that its status as a masterpiece is almost undeniable.
That makes sense.
It's kind of like looking at the Venus de Milo.
Although the statue.
Right. She's missing her arms, but the sculpting of what remains is so transcendent that you still recognize the genius of the creator.
That is a brilliant comparison.
To really understand why those fragments hold so much power, we have to look closely at the anatomy of the story itself,
Let's do it.
and specifically, the mechanism of sudden wealth that drives the entire tragedy.
Okay, yeah, let's really unpack this because the story is fascinating.
It really is.
The foundational narrative of Greed isn't an original screenplay.
Right, it's an adaptation.
It's actually based on an 1899 novel by the American author Frank Norris.
Called McTeague.
Exactly, McTeague. Now, McTeague is widely considered a prime textbook example of American naturalist literature.
Classic naturalism.
And what our source material points out is that Stroheim took this 1899 novel.
Which is already a bit dated by then.
Right. And he made a very specific, deliberate choice to update it to a contemporary 1920s setting.
He brought it into the present day.
Yeah. He wanted to give it an immediate, visceral impact for the audience sitting in the theater in 1924.
Which strategically was a brilliant move on his part.
Totally.
But to understand why the story feels so heavy, we really need to talk about what naturalism actually means in this context.
Yeah, let's define that for the listener.
So naturalism, as a literary movement that emerged in the late 19th century,
Right.
it was essentially a reaction against Romanticism.
Okay.
Romanticism told us that human beings have free will, that love conquers all.
Very uplifting.
Yeah, that the individual can triumph over their circumstances through
Right.
sheer force of spirit.
The classic Hollywood ending.
Exactly. Naturalism says the exact opposite.
Much bleaker.
It argues that human beings are essentially animals driven by deep primal instincts, and that our fates are almost entirely predetermined by our environment, our heredity, and the harsh social conditions we are born into.
You can't escape your biology or your class.
Right. It does not flinch from the ugly, unvarnished reality of life.
It's a very deterministic, almost fatalistic way of looking at the world.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And by dragging that 1899 naturalist story forward into the modern era of the 1920s.
The roaring 20s.
Right, an era defined by rapid urbanization, massive wealth inequality, and the booming pursuit of the almighty dollar.
Everyone wanting to get rich quick.
Exactly. Stroheim was sending a very clear message to his audience.
He was pointing a mirror at them.
He was telling them, look, this isn't some distant historical fable about people in the past.
No.
This machinery of greed is operating right now in your modern cities.
Right outside the theater doors.
And it is destroying people who look exactly like you.
So let's look at exactly who these people are.
Let's do it.
Because they are so vividly drawn, the main character is John McTeague, who usually just goes by Mac.
Right.
In the film, he's played brilliantly by Gibson Goland.
Incredible performance.
You know, Mac's background is crucial to understanding him.
Oh, absolutely.
He is a former gold miner from the rural mountains.
He's already associated with gold.
Yes. He's described as a physically massive, incredibly strong, but somewhat simple-minded man.
Like a gentle giant initially.
Right. He isn't malicious. He's just driven by very basic needs and instincts.
He just wants to get by.
He eventually moves to San Francisco and sets himself up as a dentist.
A dentist.
Yes, but, and this is a massive plot point, he is completely self-taught.
Oh boy.
He has no formal education, no degree, and no actual legal license to practice dentistry.
He's a fraud, essentially.
He just learned by watching a traveling charlatan.
That lack of legitimate credentials hangs over him like a sword of Damocles, even if he doesn't realize it at first.
He's oblivious to the danger.
He's carved out a very fragile, precarious existence in the city.
Exactly. He's getting by. He's an ordinary guy.
Doing his best.
And eventually, through his dental practice, he meets and marries a woman named Trina Sipa.
Played by Zasu Pitts.
Yes. And for a brief moment, their lives are relatively normal.
Happy, even.
They're struggling working-class people, but they are surviving.
Until the inciting incident hits them like a freight train.
Right. On the very day their engagement is announced, Trina wins $5,000 in a lottery.
$5,000.
Yeah, and I have to put that in context. In the 1920s, $5,000 is not a nice little bonus.
No, not at all.
It is a massive, life-altering sum of money.
Adjusted for inflation, you're talking about the equivalent of a small fortune today.
Hundreds of thousands.
Right. It is enough capital to completely change your social class.
Buy a house, start a real business.
It's enough to secure your future and completely alter the trajectory of your entire family line.
It's the dream.
But in the deterministic, naturalist world of greed, this lottery win is absolutely not a blessing.
Far from it.
It doesn't solve their problems.
Yeah.
It is the absolute, definitive catalyst for their total destruction.
It functions as a literal curse.
Yes.
It's so fascinating to me because culturally, we are conditioned to view a lottery win as the ultimate fantasy.
Right. The ultimate dream come true.
Oh, but you actually see the modern equivalent of this curse play out all the time in real life.
Constantly.
You read statistical studies and news stories today about people who win multi-million-dollar jackpots.
And it ruins them.
Within 3 to 5 years, a shocking percentage of them are completely bankrupt.
Or worse.
They are divorced, they are completely alienated from their families, or they've suffered severe mental health breakdowns.
Yeah, the lottery curse is a highly documented sociological phenomenon.
Right, because the sudden influx of unearned capital completely rewires their reality.
It shifts all the power dynamics.
Or think about it in terms of sudden viral fame on the internet today.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Someone goes from being a complete unknown, living a normal life, to having millions of eyeballs on them and massive brand deals overnight.
And they just implode.
That influx of unearned resource, whether it's cash or social currency, often completely destroys their lives.
Because they don't have the foundation for it.
Exactly. And the mechanism behind that destruction is almost always the same.
What's that?
They lack the psychological framework to handle it, and the sudden disparity in wealth or status breeds intensely toxic jealousy among everyone in their pre-existing social circle.
Their friends turn on them.
The wealth breaks the social contract they had with their community.
That analogy is incredibly precise.
Thank you.
The sudden influx of a massive resource acts as an accelerant for all the latent character flaws, resentments, and jealousies that were already lying dormant within their social ecosystem.
It brings out the worst in everyone.
It's like pouring gasoline on a smoldering ember.
Boom.
In the film, we see this domino effect start immediately with a character named Marcus Scholler.
Well, Marcus, played by Gene Herschelt.
Now, Marcus is a crucial figure. He is Trina's former suitor,
Right.
and he is also McTeague's supposed best friend.
Supposed being the key word.
Exactly. It was actually Marcus who introduced Mac and Trina.
Oh, that makes it even messier.
When Trina wins the $5,000, Marcus's brain immediately begins to rewrite history to justify his own resentment.
He feels cheated.
He feels completely cheated by the universe.
And the mental gymnastics he does are just astounding.
Oh, yeah.
He actively rationalizes to himself that he generously gave Trina up to his friend McTeague out of the pure, selfless goodness of his heart.
Such a martyr.
Right. And therefore, according to his twisted logic, he is morally entitled to a significant cut of that $5,000 lottery payout.
Which, as you noted, completely breaks the social contract.
It's absurd.
It's a deeply flawed, incredibly human piece of logic.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, I did a nice thing in the past, and now circumstances have changed, so you owe me a dividend on my past kindness.
He views her sudden wealth as a missed opportunity of his own. I did a nice thing, now pay me for it.
Exactly.
It's transactional friendship.
It's totally transactional.
And of course, McTeague and Trina flat out refuse to give him a dime of it.
Why would they?
It's her lottery ticket.
Right.
But when they refuse, Marcus's jealousy metastasizes into pure, toxic vengeance.
He goes scorched earth.
He decides that if he can't have the wealth, he will destroy the man who he believes took it from him.
Because he knows a secret.
He knows McTeague's secret. He knows Mac is self-taught and doesn't possess a formal dental license.
His one vulnerability.
So Marcus goes to the authorities and denounces him.
Snitches on him.
The authorities immediately crack down on McTeague. They issue an injunction, force him to close his dental practice.
And just like that, it's over.
Instantly, McTeague's entire livelihood, his social standing, and his sense of masculine identity as a provider are completely stripped away.
And that is the exact moment the degradation of the naturalist philosophy really kicks in.
The downward spiral begins.
The environment is turned against him, and he does not have the intellectual or emotional tools to adapt.
He's helpless.
McTeague loses his purpose. He has no income. And so, predictably, he turns to alcohol to numb the frustration,
Self-medicating.
and he begins to physically deteriorate.
Yes.
But the brilliant twist of the story,
Yes.
the thing that elevates it from a standard tragedy to a masterpiece of psychological horror, is Trina's reaction.
Yes. Because here is where it gets so incredibly twisted.
It's so dark.
Mac has lost his practice. They have no income. They are forced to move into a tiny, squalid room.
Living in poverty.
But Trina still has the $5,000.
Right.
They aren't actually broke. The money is sitting right there.
But she won't touch it.
Her psychological reaction to the sudden wealth is profound and disturbing. She doesn't view the money as a tool to save her husband's business or improve their living conditions.
Not at all.
She views the money as an entity unto itself. She develops this obsessive, pathological, almost physical fear of spending even a single dime of the principal.
It's an incredible study of the pathology of wealth.
It really is.
It's exactly like the dragon hoarding gold in mythology.
Oh, that's perfect.
The dragon doesn't spend the gold, the dragon just sleeps on it and guards it.
Smog style.
Right. The gold ceases to be currency, a medium of exchange to make life better, and becomes a fetish object.
It becomes a prison.
Trina literally begins to withdraw $5,000 in physical gold coins and sleeps in bed with them.
She rolls around in them.
She polishes them, she caresses them, she fritters away her own humanity and allows her husband to starve just to protect this hoard.
She forces them to live in absolute squalor while sitting on a fortune.
It's madness.
And the psychological realism of how this destroys their marriage is incredibly nuanced in the source material.
They were doomed from the start.
The text points out that they are already a sexually mismatched husband and wife. There is a lack of genuine intimacy.
They don't really connect.
Now, combine that lack of physical connection with extreme financial stress, Mac's alcoholism, and Trina's obsessive hoarding,
It's a powder keg.
and it builds an impenetrable, suffocating barrier of hatred between them. They are trapped in a tiny room together, completely alienated from one another.
Just stewing in misery.
Our source book summarizes this entire thematic arc with one chilling phrase:
What is it?
humanity slain by gold.
Humanity slain by gold. It's perfectly stated.
Gives me chills.
You see it manifest in the character arcs so clearly and so tragically.
Yeah.
Take Mac. As we discussed, he starts out as just an ordinary, somewhat lumbering man with simple frustrations.
He's not an inherently evil guy.
No. He's an underdog who tried to rise above his station and was slapped back down by a jealous friend and an unfeeling bureaucracy.
Right.
And the historical context here is fascinating because the authors of our source book point out that this specific theme of the underdog,
Yeah.
the frustrated ordinary man battling a system he doesn't understand, was actually very close to Erich von Stroheim's own heart.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, Stroheim carefully cultivated an image of himself in Hollywood as an aristocrat.
Oh, the whole Von thing.
Exactly, he billed himself as a European count. But in reality, he was a working-class immigrant who had struggled immensely as a Hollywood outsider, trying to make his mark against the powerful studio bosses.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he understood the feeling of being an underdog whose ambitions are thwarted by powerful, arbitrary forces.
So he related to Mac. Yep,
He poured that personal empathy into the character of McTeague.
that makes so much sense.
But in the deterministic world of naturalism, the underdog doesn't win.
Never.
Mac descends from this simple, frustrated guy into an absolute monster. The environment breaks him, and his primal instincts take over.
He becomes feral.
He becomes a murderer. He ends up brutally beating his wife, Trina, to death to take the gold she refused to share with him.
It's just horrific.
And the film sets this horrific act on Christmas Eve, of all days.
Oh, man. The irony of setting the climax of a story about greed and murder on Christmas Eve is so dark.
It is perfectly in line with Stroheim's deeply sardonic, cynical view of human nature.
Bah humbug.
Right. The season of giving, the season of peace on earth, becomes the literal backdrop for the ultimate act of taking.
Brutal.
McTeague beats her to death in the shadows, steals her precious hoard of gold coins, and flees into the night.
It's a devastating, uncompromising arc.
Truly.
And to earn that level of psychological realism, to make the audience truly believe that this simple, bumbling dentist could realistically degenerate into a brutal murderer without it feeling melodramatic,
That takes work.
Stroheim felt he required an obsessive, almost tyrannical commitment to physical truth on the screen.
Which is the perfect bridge into the reality of how this film was actually made.
Yes, let's get into the shoot.
Because that commitment to the truth drove Stroheim to operate on a completely different plane of reality than anyone else in Hollywood.
It's mind-boggling.
Let's look closely at the sheer scale of this production. Greed was shot over the course of 9 months in 1923.
9 months.
9 months of principal photography.
For context, in the silent film era, how long did a typical feature film take to shoot?
A standard feature film at that time was a highly efficient, factory-like process.
Like a conveyor belt.
It might take 3 to 4 weeks to shoot. A massive prestige epic might take 2 months.
So 9 months is just
9 months was completely unprecedented. It was a logistical and financial anomaly that defied all conventional studio logic.
the studio must have been losing their minds.
But you have to understand Stroheim's mindset. He viewed this adaptation not just as a piece of disposable entertainment, but as a literal mirror held up to life.
He was making art with a capital A.
The source material refers to his vision as trying to create a precise of knowledge about human nature.
An encyclopedia of human behavior.
To achieve that, he categorically refused to compromise on the physical environment. He believed that if the environment was fake, the emotions would be fake.
Right, so no studio backlots, no painted backdrop.
None.
He moved the entire massive production company out of the studios and across the state of California.
The traveling circus.
When the script called for San Francisco, they shot in the actual practical streets, the real boarding houses, and the actual dental parlors of San Francisco and Oakland.
The real deal.
When the script called for the characters to be freezing, they dragged everyone up into the deep actual snow of the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Freezing their cast.
And most notoriously, when the script called for the final act to take place in a desert wasteland, they went down into the literal inferno of Death Valley.
And the Death Valley portion of the shoot is legendary in film history for its sheer, uncompromising brutality.
It's infamous.
Stroheim insisted that to accurately portray the physical and mental breakdown of the characters at the end of the story, when they are dying of thirst and exposure, the actors and the crew had to actually experience the physical toll of that environment.
Which is basically torture.
You cannot fake the look of a man whose body is shutting down from dehydration.
No.
They're shooting in temperatures that defied human endurance. We're talking about 120, 130 degrees on the salt flats.
And again, with the technology of 1923.
Exactly. The mechanical equipment literally warped and jammed from the heat.
I can't believe the cameras even worked.
Barely. The chemical emulsion on the film stock became unstable. Cast and crew members collapsed from heat stroke and had to be packed in ice.
Back in ice.
It was an environment that was actively aggressively trying to kill them.
But I wouldn't stop.
But Stroheim kept the cameras rolling because he wanted the sweat, the blistering skin, the exhaustion, and the genuine desperation in their eyes to be 100% real.
He pushed human beings to their absolute physical limits in service of an image.
He really did.
It's an obsessive attention to realism that is almost impossible to comprehend today. If a character was supposed to be tired, Stroheim wanted the actor genuinely sleep-deprived.
Method directing.
If they were supposed to be hot, he put them in the hottest place on Earth. But that exact trait, that total inability to limit himself, that absolute refusal to yell cut when he had enough material, that drive to capture every single nuance of the novel resulted in a mathematical impossibility.
The math did not work.
He generated so much footage that it led to one of the greatest tragedies in cinema history. We have to talk about the mutilation of the film in the editing room.
It is a profoundly painful chapter for any film historian or filmmaker to study.
Oh, it hurts.
Because Stroheim returned from this grueling 9-month shoot with an estimated 85 hours of raw footage.
85 hours.
He then spent over a year locked in an editing room just trying to assemble the narrative he had captured.
Over a year of just editing.
Over a year of post-production, which again was unheard of.
Yeah.
And when he finally emerged with his preferred intended vision, his director's cut, it ran for 9 hours.
Okay, I have to stop here and play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Because we throw around the phrase 9-hour cut in film circles like it's this holy grail. But let's look at the actual mechanism of exhibition. Even today, in our era of streaming and binge watching, where people will happily sit on their couch and watch 8 hours of a serialized Netflix show in one sitting.
Right, but the context is entirely different.
Exactly. We are at home. We can pause it to use the bathroom. We can order food. We can break it up over a weekend.
You have control.
Asking a 1920s audience to go to a theater, sit in a hard wooden chair, and watch a silent film for 9 continuous hours seems less like visionary art and more like holding the audience hostage.
It's a test of endurance.
I mean, did the studio executives actually have a very valid point in demanding it be cut down?
It is a highly valid, highly practical criticism, and it is the very core of the historical controversy surrounding the film. If we remove the romanticism of the tortured artist for a moment and look at the sheer economics of the 1920s film industry, the studio was absolutely right.
They had a business to run.
You have to understand the business model of a theater in that era. A single-screen theater generated revenue through turnover.
Get them in, get them out.
They needed to play a film, clear the audience out, and bring a new paying audience in 4 or 5 times a day.
Right.
If you give a theater owner a 9-hour film, they can only show it once a day.
Which completely destroys the economic model of distribution.
They cannot sell enough tickets in a single showing to recoup the massive budget Stroheim had spent.
Not to mention the biological limits of the audience.
Precisely. Human bladders aside, the psychological pacing required to sustain a cinematic narrative for 9 hours, especially a silent film reliant on visual storytelling and title cards, is incredibly difficult to achieve without exhausting the viewer.
People would just leave.
But from Stroheim's perspective as an artist, he wasn't just making a long movie. He was building a sweeping, novelistic epic.
He thought he was writing a novel on film.
He believed that every minor character, every detour, every subplot was absolutely essential to the thematic weight of the whole.
Everything mattered.
He wanted to immerse the audience so deeply in the world that they felt the passage of time and the weight of the degradation.
But unfortunately for Stroheim, the business side of Hollywood was going through a massive tectonic shift right at that exact moment.
Timing is everything.
The industry was becoming corporatized. During the making of Greed, the studio he was originally working for was Goldwyn Pictures.
Right.
Now, Goldwyn had originally given him a tremendous amount of leeway and freedom to do whatever he wanted, which is how he got away with the 9-month shoot.
They let him off the leash.
But while he was editing, Goldwyn went through a series of massive corporate mergers. First, Goldwyn merged with a company run by Marcus Lowe.
Okay.
And then, crucially, they merged with Louis B. Mayer's production company. This 3-way merger formed the iconic Metro-Goldwyn Pictures Corporation.
Which we know today is MGM.
Exactly, MGM.
And that merger was the death knell for Stroheim's 9-hour vision.
The absolute end of it.
Because Louis C. Mayer and his young, brilliant head of production, Irving Thalberg,
Oh, Thalberg.
they represented the absolute antithesis of Stroheim's chaotic, auteur-driven methods.
Total opposites.
Thalberg was the architect of the modern studio system. He believed in tight schedules, strict budgets, efficiency, and above all, producer control.
The producer was God.
The producer, not the director, was the ultimate authority. Thalberg and Stroheim actually had a bitter history. Thalberg had fired Stroheim from a previous film at Universal for going over budget.
Oh, I bet Stroheim hated him.
Thalberg was the ultimate pragmatist. So when this newly formed MGM took control of the Greed project, they looked at a 9-hour film about murder and poverty and realized it was unreleasable.
They just saw red ink.
The distributors deemed it completely unacceptable.
So the studio scissors came out, and calling it a trim is a massive understatement.
It was butchering.
Our source text details 4 specific brutal reductions to the film's footage. Let's walk through how this masterpiece was dismantled.
Let's hear it.
Stroheim himself, realizing he had to compromise or lose the film entirely, personally supervised the first cut. He managed to bring it down to 24 reels, which was a reduction of less than 20%.
Still huge.
It was still massively, unreleasably long, clocking in around 4 or 5 hours.
Still wouldn't work for the theaters.
Then, realizing the studio was going to take it away from him anyway, he sent it to his friend, the director Rex Ingram, to see if an outside eye could save it.
Right.
Ingram and his editor carried out a second cut, which reduced the film to 18 reels. We are now down by 50% from the original 9 hours.
At that point, you've already lost half the narrative. Entire characters are just gone.
But MGM, and specifically Thalberg, still wasn't satisfied. 18 reels was still too long for standard exhibition.
Yep.
So the final 2 reductions were taken completely out of Stroheim's hands. He was locked out of the process entirely.
He must have been devastated.
The film was handed over to June Mathis. Now, June Mathis was a highly prominent, incredibly influential executive and writer at MGM. She was actually the one who discovered Rudolph Valentino.
She was a heavy hitter.
She, along with the studio's in-house editors, performed the final surgery. They slashed the epic down to just 10 reels.
10 reels.
They reduced it to a mere quarter of its original length. The final release version that hit theaters was just over 2 hours long.
A quarter of its length. It's staggering to think about 75% of a piece of art just being thrown in an incinerator to melt down the silver in the film stock.
Because burned.
And this massive debate over the runtime, over whether the 9-hour cut was a misunderstood masterpiece or a self-indulgent hostage situation, leads directly into the core friction of our entire deep dive.
Yes, the book brawl.
We have to confront the historical defense of this film versus the practical reality of what Stroheim actually delivered.
Right. And I really want to look closely at what our source text says about this. Because look, the research in cinema, the magic vehicle is spot on here.
You think so?
I do. The authors argue that Stroheim was trying to build a completely new visual language. They call it a monumental achievement for reason. He was fusing this unflinching psychological context with raw naturalism because he had the stones to try something nobody else dared.
Honestly, I reckon the book is being way too kind to him, to be honest.
Come on.
I mean it. You call it ambition. I call it a massive ego trip. Just because a director spends a fortune and makes everyone miserable on set doesn't make him a genius.
But the result...
He was a proper narcissist with the camera, and I think the book lets him off the hook because it's a classic.
Snappish. It's not an ego trip. It's an evolution.
An evolution into what? Bankruptcy.
The book gives you the actual credits and the technical breakthroughs that changed how every film is made today. If you find the scale of it a bit of a slog, that's on you, not the history.
I'm just saying, I'm looking at it with a modern eye, and it's half brilliant and half nonsense.
Nonsense.
The book defends him through a historical lens, but I'm sitting here thinking, mate, cut 30 minutes out of that scene and we'd actually have a story. It's bloated.
It's not bloated, it's dense.
It is the eternal debate of the auteur theory, I suppose. Does artistic genius excuse logistical tyranny?
I think to understand why the book defends him so passionately, we have to look at exactly what was lost in that 75% reduction.
Right, let's look at the lost footage.
The book argues that the cut footage wasn't just padding or bloated exposition. Stroheim was building a multi-layered symphonic epic about a society entirely ruled by the dollar.
Right.
To do that, the original 9-hour cut featured several parallel subplots that mirrored and contrasted with McTeague and Trina's descent.
What were those specific subplots? What was actually in that missing footage that made it so essential?
So the most prominent lost subplot was the story of Maria Macapa, a half-mad Mexican charwoman, and Zerko, a greedy junk dealer.
Okay.
Maria constantly babbles about a legendary, non-existent service of solid gold plates that her family supposedly once owned.
It's just a fantasy.
Right. And Zerkow becomes so obsessed with the idea of this imaginary gold that he marries her, tortures her trying to find it, and eventually murders her when he realizes it doesn't exist.
Wow.
It was a dark, grotesque, exaggerated parallel to Mac and Trina's story. It showed that the sickness of greed wasn't isolated, it was endemic to the society.
So it was an echo of the main plot, showing how the obsession with wealth destroys you, even if the wealth isn't real.
Exactly. And then, to balance out that horrific darkness, Stroheim included a gentle, almost sweet counterpoint.
Some actual light in the movie.
Yeah. There was the story of an elderly couple in the same boarding house, Anastasia Baker and Mr. Granis.
Okay.
They are two shy, lonely people who secretly love each other but are too afraid to speak. They represent a pure, uncorrupted human connection that has absolutely nothing to do with money.
And how did their story end?
Their story ended happily.
Well, that's refreshing.
So the book argues that by completely excising these subplots, MGM didn't just shorten the movie, they flattened it. They reduced a sweeping, complex, three-dimensional societal critique into a single, linear, two-dimensional crime story.
They gutted the thematic soul of the film.
Yes. Okay, looking at it through that lens, I can see the tragedy of the edit. If you take a tapestry and just cut out the central thread and throw the rest away, you lose the pattern.
Right.
But let me push back on the authors of the book one more time.
Go on.
Even if those subplots add thematic flavor and depth, a film still has to function as a piece of communicative art for an audience.
True.
If you overwhelm your audience with so much narrative density that they are exhausted by hour 5, the message is entirely lost anyway.
Yeah, if they're asleep, they aren't getting the message.
Didn't the studio, for all of its corporate coldness and commercial calculation, understand that a tight 2-hour film that people can actually sit through, absorb, and recommend to their friends is functionally a more effective piece of art than a 9-hour film that plays to an empty room?
Doesn't the audience's experience matter?
Exactly.
It's a completely fair point, and it's the strongest argument for the studio's intervention.
Yeah.
A message that isn't received is just a man shouting into the void.
Precisely.
The studio ensured the film was actually seen, even if it was a compromised version. The tension between the expansive vision of the artist and the practical absorption rate of the audience is a friction that has existed as long as storytelling itself.
Always.
But regardless of where one falls on the debate over the runtime, whether you think June Mathis saved the film or murdered it, there is one thing that historians, filmmakers, and audiences absolutely must acknowledge.
What's that?
The undeniable, objective brilliance of the technical execution in the footage that did survive.
Oh, without a doubt.
Even in its slashed-up form, Greed is a masterclass in visual storytelling.
Which is the perfect transition into the actual cinematography and the cinematic techniques that elevate this film.
Yes, let's get into the technical stuff.
Because this is where Stroheim's pioneer status really crystallizes for me. When you read the source material's breakdown of his methods, it highlights how Stroheim actively rejected the standard dramatic editing conventions of the 1920s.
He wouldn't play by their rules.
At that time, directors heavily relied on editing to tell the audience what was important. They would show a wide shot of a room, then physically cut to a close-up of a character's face, then cut to a close-up of an object.
Right, guiding the eye with cuts.
They used the edit to force your perspective. But Stroheim didn't do that. Instead, he utilized something called the depth of the frame.
Yes, the concept of deep focus and blocking in depth. It is a fundamental shift in how a director communicates with the audience.
So how does that actually work mechanically? What does it mean to utilize the depth of the frame for a listener who maybe hasn't studied film theory?
Mechanically, it means staging the action and utilizing the camera lenses so that the image is in focus for a great distance. It allows the director to place important narrative information in the foreground of the shot, the middle ground of the shot, and the deep background, all happening simultaneously within a single, continuous, unbroken take.
That sounds really hard to do.
It requires incredibly complex blocking of the actors and highly precise lighting to pull off.
Yeah.
What it does, psychologically, is it stops force-feeding the audience. It allows the viewer's eye to wander the frame and actively discover the visual metaphors naturally woven into the environment, rather than having the director abruptly cut to a title card that dictates this is what you should be feeling right now.
It respects the intelligence of the viewer.
Exactly.
And the source material highlights some absolute textbook examples of this technique in Greed. One of the most famous sequences is during McTeague and Trina's wedding reception.
It's a brilliant scene.
Now, on paper, a wedding should be a moment of pure joy and celebration, right?
Usually, yeah.
They are taking their vows, and Stroheim stages the wedding ceremony in the foreground of the room. The celebration is happening right in front of us.
Right.
But utilizing that depth of the frame, he makes sure we can clearly see out the window into the street in the deep background.
And what's out there?
Exactly as they are taking their vows, slowly passing by outside the window is a horse-drawn funeral cortege.
It is such a brilliant, haunting detail.
It visually foreshadows the death, misery, and literal murder that will ultimately stem from this union.
And the genius is that it happens organically within the physical world of the scene.
It doesn't feel like a cheap trick.
No. He also uses symbolic, living objects masterfully throughout the film. There's an aggressive, feral cat that appears periodically in the margins of the frame, creeping around in the shadows just as the character's darker, more violent natures start to surface.
It acts as an omen of evil, an animalistic parallel to the humans.
I want to ask you, the listener, to just imagine the impact of watching a film like that in 1924. If you are sitting in a theater, looking at the screen, and you independently notice a funeral procession passing by out the window while a couple is happily getting married,
Your brain immediately begins processing a profound sense of doom and foreboding.
and it's doing it subconsciously, without a single line of dialogue or an intrusive title card telling you to feel scared.
Isn't that the absolute pinnacle of the storytelling rule show Don't Tell?
It really is.
It immerses you so deeply in the world that you feel the dread before the characters do.
It completely revolutionizes the relationship between the screen and the audience. And there's another incredibly fascinating technical innovation mentioned in our source book that speaks to Stroheim's obsessive vision,
Oh, the tinting.
the yellow tinting. We think of silent films as strictly black and white, but in the original early exhibition prints of Greed, Stroheim actually had specific thematic details tinted yellow by hand.
Hand tinted. Every single frame.
Yes. Think about the sheer manual labor involved in that. Running miles of film strip and chemically treating or painting specific objects in every single frame of a 24 frame per second movie.
That is mind-blowing.
He tinted the gold coins that Trina hoards. He tinted the brass bed they sleep in. He tinted the cage of the canary Mac carries.
Wow.
He even tinted the dental tooth sign outside Mac's office. He took a black and white world and visually isolated the lure of gold, making it practically glow on the screen.
It was an unmistakable recurring visual metaphor for the obsession that infects the characters like a virus.
The full original version of the film even began at the Big Dipper gold mine in California, establishing that yellow metallic lure right from the very first frame.
The book refers to this as his predatory passion for truth.
That's a great phrase.
And thankfully, modern audiences actually have a slightly better way to appreciate the scale of that vision today than audiences did in 1924.
Thank goodness for archivists.
In 1999, an incredibly dedicated film scholar and producer named Glenn Morgan undertook a massive, years-long project to reconstruct Greed.
To be as close to Stroheim's intent as historically possible.
Exactly. He didn't find the missing footage, obviously.
No, that nitrate film was melted down for its silver content nearly a century ago, and it's gone forever.
But Morgan used the original unabridged script, Stroheim's detailed continuity notes, and thousands of surviving productions, still photographs that were taken on set during the shoot.
It was a monumental, painstaking effort of archival resurrection.
By taking these high-quality still images and inserting them into the timeline as stop frames or photo montages and pairing them with newly created explanatory title cards based on the script, Morgan managed to expand the running time of the film.
How long is it now?
He got it up to 235 minutes.
That's nearly 4 hours long.
And what does that 4-hour reconstruction actually achieve narratively?
It completely restores the lost architecture of the film. It reinserts the grotesque story of Maria Macapa and Zerkow the Junkman. It brings back the gentle, balancing counter-narrative of Anastasia and Granis.
So you get the whole picture.
While watching still photographs mixed with moving footage isn't the same fluid experience as the 9 hours of moving film Stroheim shot, it finally allows us to see the immense symphonic structure of the societal epic he was trying to build.
It proves that the lost footage wasn't just padding, it was load-bearing narrative architecture.
Yes, exactly.
And when you watch it, the dramatic temperature of those surviving moving set pieces, the complex blocking of the wedding, the sheer brutal terror of the Christmas Eve murder in the shadows, and of course the grand finale, they retain this tremendous, almost overwhelming visceral power.
Which brings us, inevitably, to the end of the line. The final fatalistic descent into the desert.
The climax in Death Valley. It is one of the most famous sequences in cinema history for a reason.
Absolutely.
After murdering Trina and finally stealing her hoard of gold coins, McTeague flees San Francisco. He heads back to the environments he knows, ultimately pushing into the harsh, unforgiving borders of the California desert.
And in a wild twist of fate, he actually manages to strike it rich.
Yes.
He finds a massive vein of raw gold with the help of a prospector. He has finally achieved the vast wealth he always wanted.
But in the naturalist worldview, you cannot escape your past, and you cannot escape your nature.
Never.
Marcus Scholler, once his friend, now his absolute worst enemy, joins a sheriff's posse that is tracking McTeague down for the murder.
But the crucial detail here is Marcus's motivation.
Oh, this is so important.
Marcus isn't joining this posse out of a righteous sense of justice for Trina. He's not trying to avenge her death.
Not at all.
He's doing it because the authorities have placed a bounty on McTeague. He is still, fundamentally, driven by greed. He wants the reward money.
As the pursuit enters the most dangerous territory, Marcus actually breaks away from the rest of the posse.
He decides to follow McTeague alone, deep into the limitless, blindingly white, scorching sands of Death Valley.
He wants the money all to himself.
And this is exactly where the brutal physical realism of that location shoot we talked about pays off in a terrifying, tangible way.
Yeah, when you watch the sequence, the heat radiating off the screen is palpable.
You can see the salt dust caked on their blistered skin. You can see the genuine exhaustion in the actor's eyes.
The two men, completely isolated from civilization, their mules dead, utterly exhausted and dying of thirst, finally confront each other.
They engage in a final, desperate, pathetic, mortal struggle under the blazing sun.
It's not a glamorous Hollywood fight. It is two exhausted animals clawing at each other in the dirt.
It's brutal.
In the end, McTeague's sheer size and raw strength allow him to overpower Marcus. He beats Marcus to death in the salt flats.
But in his final, dying moments, Marcus plays his last, infinitely cruel card.
As his life fades, Marcus manages to snap a pair of heavy steel handcuffs onto McTeague's wrist, locking the other end to his own wrist.
So the film ends with McTeague left completely stranded in the limitless, burning desert sands.
He has absolutely no water. He is physically exhausted beyond repair.
And he is now permanently shackled to the heavy, dead corpse of his rival.
He has his canvas bag full of gold coins, and he just found a massive gold mine.
But the wealth is utterly, laughably useless to him now.
It is, without exaggeration, one of the bleakest, most unforgettable, and most perfectly ironic endings in all of narrative art.
The sheer, crushing irony of finally winning the gold, of possessing more wealth than you could ever spend, but losing your life in a barren environment where all the gold in the world cannot buy a single life-saving drop of water.
It is the ultimate naturalist statement. Nature does not care about your money.
It's a haunting image.
So we've walked through the complicated literary history, the unprecedented physical shoot, the corporate mutilation, the undeniable brilliance, and the sheer madness of this film.
It's been a journey.
And it brings us back to that central tension we started with. We've done over 40 of these deep dives, exploring everything from history to science, so you know we're always going to find different angles to view these events.
We've done 40 of these, so you know we're never going to agree.
Exactly. If you want to see if our resident observer is just being a cynical git or if the book actually has it right, buy the thing. The link to Cinema, the magic vehicle, is in the description of this deep dive.
Do you actually have the spine to read the real history, or are you staying lazy? Your call.
I highly recommend picking it up. It lays out the evidence, the production notes, and the historical context beautifully. It gives you the tools to make up your own mind about the nature of art and compromise.
It truly is worth reading, if only to understand the structural foundations of the cinematic language we all take completely for granted today.
Whenever you see a film that utilizes deep focus or shoots on location for gritty realism, you are seeing the echoes of this production.
Whether you view Erich von Stroheim as a visionary martyr or a logistical nightmare, his impact on the medium is indelible. He pushed the boundaries of what a movie could be.
I want to leave you, the listener, with one final, very specific image from the film to mull over as we sign off.
In that vast, deadly expanse of Death Valley, with two men lying dead or dying due to their uncontrollable primal greed.
There is actually only one survivor.
Throughout the entire epic runtime of the film, McTeague has carried a small, gilded birdcage containing a single canary.
It's a tiny symbol of life and fragility that accompanied him all the way from his simple, relatively happy days as a dentist in San Francisco.
And there, at the very end, as McTeague sits chained to a corpse in the baking sun, knowing he is about to die, he opens the door of the cage and sets the canary free.
The bird hops out onto the salt flats. The only living thing that survives humanity's toxic, all-consuming pursuit of wealth is a small animal that has been trapped inside a cage its entire life.
So I want you to ask yourself, what does that final image say about human nature?
Does the pursuit of money cage us more securely than iron bars ever could?